Welcome to Bosco Campus Vision. You're watching the campus television channel of Don Bosco College, Kottayam. This lecture is on the prescribed syllabus of first semester BA English Literature and Language. Paper is Introduction to Literary Studies 1. In this lecture, I am going to discuss the next art form, poetry. What is poetry? The word poetry is derived from Greek word poiesis, meaning to make or to create. There are so many definitions given by different poets, authors, and critics. Let's see some of those definitions one by one. According to Thomas Carlyle, poetry is musical thought. According to William Hazlitt, poetry is the language of imagination and the passions. P.B. Shelley says, poetry is the expression of imagination. And according to Edgar Allan Poe, poetry is the rhythmic creation of beauty. In short, we can say that poetry is the medium with which poets expresses their thoughts, ideas, feelings, experiences, passions, impressions, and expressions. Meter, rhyme, and rhythm are features that add to the musical quality of poems. It has a great impact on the mind of the reader. Types of poetry: ballad, lyric, epic, mock epic, elegy, sonnet, ode, dramatic monologue, and haiku. All these types of poetry we will learn one by one in the coming lectures. Poetry treats two kinds of subject matter: subjective poetry and objective poetry. Let's understand the difference between subjective poetry and objective poetry. Subjective poetry is a poetry of self-expression supplied by the poet's own thoughts and feelings, whereas objective poetry is a poetry supplied by external objects such as deeds, events, and the things we see around us. Objective poetry is older than subjective poetry. Subjective poetry derives inspiration from his own experiences when the poet views it from within, giving expression that arises in his mind. Therefore, it is personal. Whereas objective poetry, in objective poetry, poet functions as a detached observer, describing what he has seen or heard. That is, the poet views it without confining himself and merely to its externals. Therefore, it is impersonal. Subjective poetry, the focus of attention is the poet himself. Whatever the subject may be, his mind is centered on his own thoughts and feelings. Whereas objective poetry, the focus of attention is something that is outward, that is a praiseworthy act, a thrilling occurrence, a beautiful scene, etc. Examples of subjective poetry: lyric, psalms written by David; an elegy, Tennyson's Break, Break, Break. Examples of objective poetry: Homer's Iliad, this is an epic. T.S. Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral is a verse drama. In this lecture, we discussed what is poetry. We have seen different definitions given by different authors and poets about poetry, and then we have learned subjective and objective poetry. Do the given exercise and submit on time. Thank you.